Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to the, to this semester's last workshop. I kind of wanted it to be something special, and doing we will be basically doing some stuff on Unity VR toolkit. And the idea behind this sort of workshop is that like most people do not have a VR headset, and it's usually not that common to find a documentation about it. So yeah, I kind of wanted to show you guys that it's actually pretty simple, because yeah, we will be basically doing a very simple game from what we have learned throughout the workshops of this semester. And yeah, like we will be using Unity 3D URP core. I assume most of you have a project ready. Justin, is it also like installing? It's currently getting set up. All right. And also, like this one is basically the plan I had. We will be having basically like 3 sessions of testing the games itself themselves. So first of all, we will be setting up Unity XR, basically everything we need to work with the Unity VR API. We will be installing toolkits and some plugins. And then we will be immediately start by grabbing and like throwing objects. We will be basically implementing this feature to our like very simple game. We will be using direct interactors and like XR interactables, but like the things will make more sense when we are going to get to them. And lastly, like I mentioned, we will be basically shooting some objects. Like if you have attended the previous workshops, the things are pretty similar to what we have done so far. And yeah, is that ready to be running? Oh yeah, perfect. I do not need this one. And yeah, basically the reason why we are using URP is that uh, it's basically for games that are more demanding on their performance. So URP is actually providing us some like features to actually optimize our game. I don't think it will make a lot of difference to actually use URP or just the simple vanilla 3D, but I kind of wanted to start by using URP in this one. And by the way, I will be using this layout. You can just like if you're not feeling comfortable with your layout, you can just and by the way, like is the text text and everything is like clear to you on here? You can basically like maybe I can just scale, make text size bigger. No, not this one. Is it at least better? I guess basically like on the top right corner, you can just play around with different layouts for your Unity editor. I will be using 2x3. Um, and yeah, you can basically play around with it. I'm gonna be like docking my hierarchy at the bottom, just like this. And, or no, the opposite. The project at the bottom. And yeah, you can basically play around with it the way you want. So yeah, we can just immediately start by getting into the Unity scenes right over here. I just want you to create a new scene right over here. We won't be using the sample scene. Um, yeah, let's just create a scene by just right clicking and like in this create tab. It's just right over here. And let's just call it something like VR game, just like that. The thing is, like both of them shouldn't have a lot of differences. The only thing is that like this one has a global volume. But yeah, this one is basically a very simple scene. And let's just open up the package manager right from the window tab. Like it's the second tab from the right. And like, have you found the package manager right over here? Package manager on the window tab, package manager right over here. So in the package manager, first of all, you see this like on the top left, it says packages in project. I want you to select Unity registry instead of in project so that like it will show us broader packages to install. And I want you to type in XR to the search bar at the top left, top right. And basically like if you found the XR interaction toolkit right over here, I want you to install it basically. Don't forget to pick up Unity registry at the top left. And yeah, like I'm just gonna install it. I assume like everyone have that page open. And by the way, like, do you have any questions? Do you have any problems that you have encountered? I can just help you out real quick. Oh yeah.
We're just installing that one.
Yeah, like interaction. It's gonna take a little bit while, but it shouldn't really take that long. And when you're done, you will be prompted with a window. Just click yes to that. It will restart your project. Just do that when you see the screen. So yeah, do you have any problems? Have you been able to install it? Oh, it's just downloaded. All right, I can wait. Yeah. Is it like has it restarted on your end?
Yes.
All right. So I will get to the other part. So like in the package manager, it should be open when it restarts. So I want you to go to the samples tab on the right hand side, right over here. And we will be basically importing some assets in here. I want you to import starter asset and XR device simulator. So XR device simulator is not like strictly necessary, but it's basically for the cases if you don't have any VR headset going on. It's just basically something like an emulator to simulate VR headset inputs, pretty much. Yeah, you can also import that real quick. It takes a bit while, but yeah. And we are basically importing these starter assets because it's actually providing us with some action maps and like some assets that might be useful for us. And yeah, are you guys all ready? Like,
So we do starter assets and XR device.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So if you're all guys ready, we can just get to the other part. This one was basically the first half of the stuff that we have to install. And if you guys are all ready, we can just get to the edit tab on the Unity editor top left, second one by the left. I want you to select project settings. It should be around there. You should be able to see it. Project settings. So yeah, if you have it open, I want you to get to the XR plugin management, the one without the dash. I don't know why this one is here as well. But yeah, XR plugin management right over here. I want you to install it. Basically, that's it. And yeah, XR plugin management is basically gonna provide us about like what devices are we targeting in terms of controls and stuff. So the first one, like the toolkit we installed, was basically the API, and this one is basically for getting the controls for different devices. Do you guys have it all installed, the XR plugin management? Yeah. So yeah, if it is all ready, we can get to the XR plugin management with the dash in it. Now, as you can see, at least in my screen, the one without the dash is gone now. Um, so yeah, I want you to go to this part, XR plugin management, and like tick the OpenXR. These ones are basically the different control sets that you can include in your Unity editor. Like we will be working with Meta Quest trees. So Oculus one should work as well, but we will be working with OpenXR because OpenXR is basically the safest approach, and it's basically an open standard that almost every like different headset producer agrees on, pretty much. So just tick the OpenXR one, and it should install some stuff. So just like after ticking it, just go in to the OpenXR tab that is just created on the like bottom left, and basically go in and like you see this plus sign real in here. We're gonna be basically like adding some profiles. We're basically setting up which devices are we porting to, which devices our game should be portable to. And we can just select MetaQuest Touch Pro controller profile. Um, and also, you can also choose other ones as well. Um, Maybe it's a safe approach to include Oculus Touch controller profile as well, because like whenever I play around with it, I usually like include both of them. But yeah, it should still work fine. And yeah, like if you're done with it, like if you have included both of them right over here, I want you to go to this like at the top right, you see this Android symbol. I want you to get there and like do the exact same thing for, we're basically gonna add both of them as well. MetaQuest Touch Pro controller and Oculus Touch controller profile right over here. And also like inside the Android tab, you can just include MetaQuest support as well. I mean, I'm not 100% sure what it does. It's most likely an API that's sort of like helping us to work with MetaQuest 2. I always include it in my project, but I kind of don't know like what exactly it does. So is it all ready? Like, have you guys done it? Perfect. And yeah, and you're gonna see some like exclamation marks over there. If you just click it, it will basically get us to the project validation screen at the bottom left side. There are some basically warning messages that you might want to consider if you want, but like on my end, it's not really showing anything that serious. You can just click fix all if you want, but I doubt that you have a very serious warning going on. So yeah, That is basically the setting up process. That's basically the every asset that we had to import so far. So now we can just make some changes to our scene in here. First of all, I would like to start with by just creating a 3D object, which is a plane. Just right click to the hierarchy and choose 3D object and find plane over there. And yeah, it will basically create a little plane. It will be basically a ground that we will be playing around. And you can just set up the size. Like, for example, I'm just gonna scale it so that like my game space is pretty big. And if you want, we can just change the color of it as well. For example, you can just get to the, I'm just gonna change the layout to something else. So you can just create a new folder in the project tab and like call it materials. And if you guys all remember, like in 3D, if you want to change the color of an object, we have to create a material. And also you don't really have to create a separate folder for it. It's just a good practice. And inside this materials folder, you can just create a material down there. And I'm just gonna call it floor material. And in order to attach it to our plane, let's just hold it and like drag and drop it to the plane. And you can just basically, by changing the color right over here, it will also like change the color of the plane since we attached the material to plane. And yeah, are you guys all okay with it? Are you guys all ready? Yeah, perfect. Then we can just create a bunch of cubes if you want, like the objects that we're going to interact with. It's really up to you. You can also create a material for the cubes as well. I'm just gonna call it like cube material. It's really up to you. It's not really a necessity in this situation. We're just gonna like changing the colors and stuff. I'm just gonna make it green. All right. So now we can just start by adding XR stuff to our game. So I want you to right click on the hierarchy and go to the XR tab. In this XR tab, just select XR Origin VR one. I'm just gonna keep it open for a while. And yeah. And yeah, like after creating it, you're gonna see that it created a bunch of stuff in our scene. This one is the XR Origin, like it has a bunch of stuff. XR Origin camera offset, main camera, and stuff. Like we also have controllers. We will be basically playing around with them. And also you're gonna see that it created a XR interaction manager. We're not gonna be focusing on them, but it's basically what it's doing is that it's basically keeping track of or like managing the objects that we are interacting with. So yeah, if you just created this XR origin thing to our scene, we can just delete our main camera because you're gonna see that XR origin itself has a main camera attached to it right over here. So let's just at the top, we do not need the main camera at the top, so you can just delete it because otherwise there will be like conflicts with both of the cameras. And yeah, then what I want to do is that, so like for example, you can just play around with the position of the XR origin if you want. For example, you're gonna see that it has a bunch of scripts attached to it. So tracking origin mode, is it the device, is it the floor? You can also set up the offset if you want. Basically, if you like change the y-axis of this like XR origin, your camera will be changed as well. Yeah. So I want to make some changes with the left and right controllers. So first of all, we will be just using this um, script in each of those controllers. So that means that we do not really care about the other components that are at the bottom. So like starting from the bottom, I want you to delete every single component instead of the one at the top, instead of the XR controller, for the left and the right controller. Like if you need a shortcut, you can also like select the left and right controller at the same time by like holding the control key and then just by clicking the other object. Let's just remove the components one by one. We want our game to be as simple as possible. We do not really care about the other stuff in this part. So yeah,
We want to remove all the components.
all of the components except the XR controller one. Yeah. Oh yeah, basically, if you go around at the like top right of the component and like go to the second option, you should be able to remove it. All right. So are you guys ready? Yeah. All right. Oh yeah. And basically, this XR controller thing is to bind, like for binding out the like different controls that we have on this controller pretty much. But as you can see, they're like all empty in our screen. So we will be adding some like presets to there. But like first of all, I would like to have something like a representation for our controllers. For example, like in the search tab of our project, um, you can just type in controller. No, that's a bad idea. All right. So I want you to go first the samples folder in there. Basically, choose the XR interaction toolkit, the one that we have like imported from the package manager, and like go to version and like find the starter assets, the one that we have imported, and go to the prefabs in there. And I know it's pretty like deep down there, but yeah. And then you're gonna see two prefabs, XR controller left and XR controller right. If you couldn't find it, you can just type in XR controller right over here, and like you're gonna see like two prefabs that we have imported. So what I want you to do is just pick the left one and like assign it as a child to the left controller inside XR origin, and the right one to the right, just like that. And after doing that, you're gonna see that we have this little controller model inside our game. And also, maybe at this point, I might want to show you guys how, or not. Yeah. So, like, have you guys all done it? Basically, like finding XR controller prefabs left and right, and like assigning them as children. All right. And also, last thing, if you click to the left controller, to the XR controller component, to be more precise, we basically want to set up the key bindings right over here, but you're gonna see that there are a lot of things to bind. So we will be basically using a shortcut. So just pick one of the controllers over here and like at the top right corner of the controller, you're gonna see some like, I don't know, what it's called, but basically the second option. I want you to click to it, and it will basically give us some presets for our component. And for the left controller, I want you to choose XRI default left controller, just like this. And for the right controller, do the exact same thing, but for the right controller. And you're gonna see that all of the actions, all of the key bindings are ready for our case. So yeah, do you have any questions? Is everything ready on your end? Basically get to the first testing phase. And also like before getting into that, maybe like it will be a good idea to actually showcase the simulator first. So if you type in simulator, you don't really have to follow along in this one, but like if you want, you can always like follow along as well. Just type in simulator and like you're gonna see this prefab, and let's just drag and drop it to our scene. So this device simulator will be doing the exact same thing as the XR origin rig that you see over here. So when we are actually working with the device simulator, we might want to disable, or no, not this one.
What type of objects are the
Um, you mean the ones or like the models? They're prefabs.
prefabs, but sorry, the parent.
Oh, the parent. They're basically like game objects, and so if I just unplug it, currently I don't have a like headset attached. So with the game controller, sorry, like XR device simulator, you're gonna see that when I play the game, I can just move around just like this. And I know it's pretty like small in the screen, but there are some like controls. For example, you can just, I'm currently, my mouse is controlling the headset, but if I press T or Y, I will be, you know, controlling my, what do you call it, controllers right over here. Like I said, like if you do not have a headset, that would be a good idea to actually use the XR device simulator. But for our case, we won't be using them. Instead, we will be using our own headsets. Perfect. And currently, I linked my computer to the headset. And if I press the play button right over here, you're gonna see that in the game scene, you're gonna see that like when I move my head, it's already like it's also moving around in like in the game itself. But I do not know why, but my controllers are not showing. And also, like if you want, you can have something else for the controller models. Maybe like you can just add a sphere object just like this if you want. It's really up to you. Instead of a controller, just like this. Or like maybe if you want, you can model your own hand object and like maybe animate it if you want. Yeah, this one is the sphere. And yeah, now we're gonna test all of your games in case if they're working or not. So this one is the basically first checkpoint phase of this workshop. So, in your, like, could you go to the project settings real quick? Because I figured out something. In the edit project settings, go, like, select OpenXR and play mode OpenXR runtime and choose the Oculus one. The Oculus, yeah. And also, one other thing, Go to the XR plugin management with the dash and go to Android settings at the top right. And if the OpenXR is not selected there on the Android, you should also do that. So if you guys are all ready, we can get to the other section. Yeah. Um. So yeah, like you can have a seat and like both you guys together. So all right. Um. Basically, we will be getting into the second phase, which is grabbing objects, basically. So yeah. First of all, I would like you to find direct interactor. What? What? Type prefab in. What? I don't know why I don't see it. Oh yeah, I had to retype it. Anyway, like in there, type in direct interactor, and basically just like we did for the left controller and right controller models, we want to get this direct interactor prefab as a child of each of those controllers. Basically, that's it. So this direct interactor prefab has a couple of components attached to it. Like basically, you're gonna see the sphere collider, which is basically the range that is helping us to interact with other objects. And this XR direct interactor is also like will be handling the interaction between objects and your controllers pretty much. So there are a lot of like different attributes that you can play around with, but it's not necessary for this workshop. So yeah, if you have a direct interactor prefab as a child of left controller and right controller, we can just start by creating some objects to interact with. For example, I have this like cube right over here. Um, so you can just create a cube or like any objects that you're gonna interact with. Like if you don't have anything on your scene, just right click 3D objects and like cube, just like this. And yeah, you can attach a material to it if you want. I have mine over here. And basically, what we're going to do here is that, like, if you created this cube, basically click Add Component at the bottom side and find XR Grab Interactable. Basically, after we attach this XR Grab Interactable component to our game object, you're gonna see that it automatically creates a rigid body to it because like it's a prerequisite sort of. And basically, as you remember, like we just created these direct interactors. The way it works is that like direct interactors are going to be looking for game objects that has this component pretty much. So yeah, you can just change the size of this cube if you want. Huh? XR grab interactable. And believe it or not, that's sort of it. So the only thing we needed to interact with objects. So I'm just gonna move it to a closer, move it a bit closer to my scene, and let's try it. So if you look at my screen, maybe like if I just move this cube a little closer to me, if I hold this like middle finger button like this, it's for like grabbing basically pretty much. And I'm trying my best to actually not hit stuff around me. You can just play around with it. It's like using Unity's physics system. I'm currently like holding it. I can just throw it away if I want. And also like if you want to make it a bit fun, I guess, you can also like play around with the gravity. And maybe like if I just make this little cube closer to me so that like I can pick it up. Yeah, that's sort of it. It's basically using Unity's physics system um, with the VR headset's inputs. And now we can just test it on your end as well. To the last part. Um, yeah. So what I want you to do is let's just create a new folder and like call it scripts. You don't really have to do that, but yeah. We're just gonna create a script.
Sorry, first.
Huh?
How long do we have?
How long?
How long do we have this stuff in? So officially 9, but
Yeah.
go to like 9:30.
Yeah, 9:30 should be enough. Yeah. It should even take less than that. Well, let's just create a script and call it shooter. Have you created a script? Everything is working fine. Yeah, after you create it, it's gonna compile it, and it's gonna take a little while. And yeah, you can just double click it, and it should open up VS Code or like any default text editor you have. All right. Basically, what we want to do is we basically want to create some prefabs. We basically want to get some game objects. On the editor side, let's just call it bullet prefab. We can also have some like fields to indicate bullet speed and bullet delay. Then like in the start function, we can just assign some values to them if you want. You can also like assign them right over here. It's really up to you. I'm just gonna call it like 20F. Bullet delay is like 20 or no. Actually, we don't really have to use bullet delays anyway. I'm just gonna keep it there. Oh yeah, that's fine.
Thank
That's
you
fine.
very much for this.
You're
This has
welcome.
been
You're welcome.
so much fun.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya. So also we have to use some of some of the dependencies. Unity engine dot input system using Unity engine XR interaction toolkit. Yeah. If you have them already, we can just start. We can go to the start function, action based controller ABC, equals to get component action based controller like this. Private input action. This one is going to be holding if we are pressing the grip button or not. And yeah, inside this action based controller, we're gonna be assigning the action button, activate action button. Yes. I'm just going a bit fast at this point, but yeah, I will explain it if you want to. Equals to shoot, no, shoot bullet. So shoot bullet is basically the function that will help us to, instantiate bullets around.
That's ABC, right?
Huh?
That's ABC, right?
Yeah, I just called it ABC. You can call it like action-based controller, like anything. So this one is basically something like if I go to the Unity editor, um, we will be basically like assigning this shooter script right over here, and you're gonna see that this XR controller itself is like holding every key binding that we have in our scene, right? So basically what we are going to do is we basically call this component and get the activate button and basically assign it to grip action. We are actually currently using action-based input system. We haven't really covered them out throughout our workshops, but this one is basically a more concise way of handling inputs and stuff. And yeah, we can just create a new public void shoot bullet right over here. And yeah, and you're gonna see that it's pretty similar to what we have done in the bullet hell workshop or like 3D game workshop. It's basically almost the same code right over here. We're not really doing anything related to VR or anything.
It's just creating a straight line.
Yeah. Game object, bullet. Oh yeah, bullet. Yeah.
Do we need to wait at the function?
No. For our case, no. But if you want to, advance the game a little bit, maybe we can do something about it. But I'm just gonna stick with the most simplest approach for this case. So yeah, and then we're gonna get the rigid body from this new bullet game object. New bullet game object, and basically get the component, get the rigid body component from there. And then we basically create a spawn position which takes in the transform dot position. And if we do transform dot forward, it will basically point to the tip of the gun pretty much. You don't really have to have this part in your code, but yeah, it's just a better way of doing things, I guess. And we're gonna go and get to new bullet game object, get a transform out of it, and set position and rotation. It will take in two parameters, two arguments, position and rotation. Let's just set the position as the spawn position and get the rotation as the transforms rotation itself. And yeah, I'm gonna keep it there for a while, after writing everything. I'm just hurrying a bit because we don't really have much time. Transform that forward. And as you all remember from the previous workshops, we're basically setting up the velocity for the game object that we're just going to create. And then that's sort of it. And then we can just destroy the new bullet after 10 seconds. So that like we're basically going to shoot some game objects throughout our game scene, and we don't want them to stick around, and like we basically want to kill them after 10 seconds. And it seems like I'm just gonna comment out bullet delay so that because like we're not gonna use it for our case. And yeah, that's basically it. Do you have it? Right. I'm just gonna test it on my end and show it to you guys real quick. Oh, and also, like after you're done with like typing out everything, don't forget to get this shooter component and attach it to the left and the right controller. Since we have this action-based controller component, like we're basically getting this action-based controller from the game object that we're assigned to. So it's basically like if you're on the right controller, it's basically taking the right action based controller, and if you're on the left, the same thing. And now we basically have the shooter components. The only thing left to do is to just create a folder and like call it prefabs, I guess. And like you can just put in anything. We're basically gonna like we're doing it because we need prefabs to actually shoot them around in our game. So let's just have a cube object or like any object you want and assign them to the shooter scripts right over here. And I'm just gonna test it real quick on my end. And yeah, let's see. PC is disconnected.
Disconnected.
Yeah, I kind of have to. Just try it. I try to rerun it. Yeah,
Hey.
yeah. I'm basically shooting stuff, and like if you want to make it a bit like better, you can just go around and like change the gravity to false, and like the objects that you create are basically are not yeah floating pretty much, and you can also like dual wield if you want because like we have the component in like both of them. Yeah, and that's basically it. If we had more time, maybe like actually we can also like implement the holding down button. Like for example, I'm just currently not holding because like that's not how it's implemented currently. But like yeah, you can also make it so that like it can also work with while you're holding the button. So yeah.
All right, yeah. Can you go back to the to your script?
To my script.
I was
And yeah.
almost done with it.
Yeah. And yeah, that was basically it on my end. I'm just gonna stick around for a couple of minutes so that like if you want to like play around with the game that you have done so far. And also I would like to, thanks ETS to make it possible for us. They have a bunch of cool stuff. Definitely check them out. I will definitely check you guys out because like I have some ideas to actually 3D print and stuff. Yeah, thank you all guys for attending. And